Well, it's close enough. Let's call it 9 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We do have a guest this morning. For those of you who don't know, this is Dallas Roskamp from Edgerton. He's the new commissioner-elect from District 3. He's going to have the honors of that for the next few years. Welcome. Okay, let's
Welcome, Dallas.
Okay, let's take a look at the agenda. Any additions there, Steve, or corrections, or?
Mr. Chairman, I have one deletion today. I don't have a treasurer's report for October at this point, so when I get that, we'll put it on the agenda for the 24th.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and delete item 4 on the consent agenda.
Okay. Anybody care to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Les made a motion. And Chris? Les and Chris, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, everybody's all in favor say aye. Motion passes. Okay, how about the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval of the consent agenda.
Okay. Luke made the motion to approve.
Second.
Les seconded. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And we have the minutes.
And he's improving.
Mr. Chair, move for approval.
Okay,
That was in the consent agenda.
okay, that's already covered. Okay, then we'll go to Nick. Road and bridge items, Nick?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, first up today, I have some project updates. I guess the first update I have is on the second page. It's that last project. It would be our gravel crushing for 2020. They have completed that work. So they're all of our contracts are kind of getting buttoned up for the year. So we're about done for the year. There's a little bit of this and that here and there, but all of our projects are substantially complete for the year.
And did we do the additional crushing?
No, we did not. We were getting, it's kind of pretty cold out, and we were starting to get some numbers that were a little bit out of line, so I did not have them do that. So not bad, but just, yeah, I think it was a product of the weather, so we skipped that.
Mr. Chair, there's still enough gravel though for?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. It was more than what we usually crush, so it was probably pretty close to what we've always done in the past with the extra. That's where we started this year. It's just, we didn't go above that, so we're fine. So.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Next item I have would be, as you know, we typically bid our fuel needs 6 months at a time. So just looking ahead, if you would like to bid out for our January to June 6-month fuel supply, we need to set a letting date for that. We don't have to do it today. I could come back in 2 weeks, but
Prices are good.
Yeah, just will do it.
okay. So then I picked a date, December 22nd at 10:30. We'll just pick that because it looked like the last meeting before the end of the year. So if that's what you guys want, we'll proceed with advertising for that then.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to that effect, or is this just gonna happen?
Probably, I suppose. Yeah.
Make that
Les made a
motion.
motion to approve.
Les?
Second.
Chris, December 22nd at 10:30.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes.
All right. Next item I have, it's to pass a resolution to transfer funds from the municipal allotment into the, or from the municipal account into the regular account for state aid. There's caps that the state puts on these different accounts. If you go over it, they take it back, and then I'm not even exactly sure what happens with it, but we don't want to lose out on that. The end of this year, we're scheduled to have around 600,000 over the limit in our municipal account. If we don't transfer that money into our regular account, like I said, they'll take it back. We have 2 large bridge projects by Island. They're probably going to be ballpark $1.5 million. So and that's about what we can save up in that account. So I've applied for bonding for both of them and state park road account funds on the one going to the park. So it's possible 3/4 of this will be funded through bonding in that special account, but it's also possible we get none of it and we'll have to use that state aid money to do it. So, so that's why we've been saving that up, in case we need it. So, so I would like to transfer that money from the municipal account to the regular account, so we have it if we need it. I did contact them, to the state that is, to make sure that this resolution is worded how they want to see it. I did that on, I think, Thursday or Friday, and I haven't heard back from them yet.
This isn't gonna hurt some other funding from some other source or something that isn't gonna, if you have this money in your regular account, it isn't.
Our regular account's really low, so there's plenty of room for that. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So I think, it's my interpretation that how this is worded is how they want to see it, but if they end up getting back to me and say, oh, no, we need to change this wording, I may have to come back and get it amended, but if it's all right with you, I think I'd like to get this approved now in hopes that they're okay with this, just because I don't want to wait till the last minute to do this, because if I don't want to miss out on getting the stuff done in time, so.
I'd move for approval.
Okay, Luke made a motion to approve.
Dan will second.
Dan seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right.
Maintenance, next up for me is some maintenance updates. We've been, over the last month, we've been doing a bunch of mowing, doing some ditch cleans to help with drainage. I've painted some stop bars. We've been working on signs for our 2 new roads, County Road 13 and Indian Lakes. I don't know if any signs are up yet. We're driving stubs first before the ground freezes up, because we can put signs up when it's colder out if we have to. So we installed some of those crosswalk signs in Edgerton that I believe I talked to the board about.
Those were at the high school, weren't they?
Correct. Yeah. There's one on Main Street on the east side of the school, and then 2 on County Road 9. So. We've also been hauling sand for salt sanding, and we've had to plow a few days now, so that's the general update from last month. Also, I was contacted yesterday by a consultant who's working with MnDOT on some safety improvements for intersections. They asked about if the county had any suggestions for some state spots that should be improved. And I told them they should look at Diamond Corner. We've had a bunch of nasty accidents there. So that was a couple weeks ago. Then I got a call back yesterday. They suspect the state might want to do some additional lighting there. And said how our district usually handles it is they'll install the lights if the county maintains them and pays for the electricity. So that's not an official offer from the state, but this consultant suspected that they might go down that road. So I just want to give you the heads up that we might have that decision to make coming up here. So
Just so they don't want to put a roundabout there or something.
I don't think it'd fit with that house in the cemetery.
They do those things all over the place now.
Yep. So I don't know. At least I brought it up, so they're gonna take another serious look at it, so. All right, anybody else have any other questions for me? Otherwise, that's all I have for today.
Mr. Chair, I had a kind of a general question. It might be more for Kyle Creer. Steve, do we know how we're progressing on our ditch cleanup? I know that's not a road and bridge project, but
You have any update on that, Steve, on the ditch cleaning at all, or?
Did they start yesterday?
The plan was, last I heard from Jamie, that they were going to start yesterday. I was not out there to see if they actually did or not, so I don't know if they did or not.
Where were they gonna start at?
They were gonna start at Hiawatha Bridge. We did run into one snag with the National Monument. They are not allowing us to do any ditch cleaning on the west side of the Hiawatha Bridge. They're citing that they own the property to the middle of the road. Probably that's where the section line is, so they're going on that. So we are unable to do that without filing for some sort of a permit with the federal government to do it. And in the essence of time, I instructed Jamie to start cleaning on the east side of the bridge and start working it that way, and we'll ask for a deduct for the work that we didn't do. So we need to do what we can do. It's just the way it worked out.
We protect ourselves.
Well, I think it's good that the county's seeing this done, but the bottleneck then is gonna be from the bridge to the west, and it's gonna back up
Yep.
at some point anyway. If you can clean the ditch all you want to, but if it isn't all opened up, it's not gonna be very effective.
And that's a known, that's not an unknown, so
Then-
what'll eventually happen.
Bruce,
Go ahead, Dan, I'm sorry.
Bruce, I couldn't quite hear you very well, Bruce.
Oh,
What was that,
you
Dan?
couldn't hear you very well.
Okay,
You were back away from the mic.
okay. Well, we were just talking about the ditch and the bottleneck that it's gonna create from the bridge going west toward the waterfall there, if you wanna call it the waterfall, but, that's gonna be the narrow point, so it's still gonna back up in that area if you have
Yes, well, yep, I agree.
Storm.
Do we have any kind of a guesstimate of just how much impact or bottleneck that's gonna cause? Anybody got any ideas?
it's pretty hard to know if you don't know how much it's gonna rain.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no,
'cause-
there was no hydrology study in that area to determine what it's going to do. The water will back up at the falls, and if it's anything like past history of floods, the water will migrate to the south to find its own path over the wall. That's what it did in the 90s, and it's done it all the time, and it did it before the ditch was there. That's where the water, that's the low point, and that's where it's gonna go. So it will do the same thing again, but the ditch will be clean.
Be able to get it there faster.
Do we have this, do we have any type of a letter then from the National Monument stating their willingness for us to go in there so that if something happens down the road, we can show that it was clearly their obstruction and not ours?
No, it was all verbal via Lauren out at the monument. I can
I
request,
wonder if
I
it'd
can
be good to
request a
have her
letter
put
from
that
her.
in. Yeah.
Do we need a motion to
Yeah.
have you request that, Steve, or that's just something we can just agree to?
I'll just take care of
Okay,
that.
that sounds good. At least that'll be something in the file
Yeah.
for that.
Yep, exactly.
Any other questions for Nick or comments or?
I just got one additional comment.
Okay.
I thought the bridge on Highway 75 turned out really good. Even
Oh, yeah.
Going over the tracks and everything's real smooth transition there. I think they did a good job
Yep.
with that.
It is. I was wondering, could the railroad do that with Main Street and Second Street as well?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with us. We didn't work on it at all, but,
Nice to have it open.
yeah, it opened our road back up, but that was their work, not ours, but they did nice. I ride smooth, so.
But I noticed they had railroad staff there, like you say, when they did the part right next to the tracks, as they normally do. But it'd be nice if they brought those people back and did the two in the town, because,
Especially Second Street's awful.
yeah, Second Street's really rough. Main's not much better, but a little bit.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll let Nick go and,
Well,
okay.
Nick,
Dan?
speaking of railroads, and I know that you sent me an email back, do you know when Dunnick is gonna start our two crossings?
I do not,
Okay.
no, I don't know, but we contacted them I wanted to make sure that they got patched before we needed to plow snow, because I didn't want our plows hitting on those crossing pieces or whatever. Believe we even offered to possibly do the work and see if they'd pay us or reimburse us for it, and it didn't sound, they said, nope, we hired Dunick to do it, so. We just wanted it taken care of, like, needs to be done before winter.
Nick, has the patching been done on Highway 18 north of Edgerton there now?
Yes.
Up that way, is that pretty smooth now, or is it?
Bituminous patches, you're never gonna get them perfect, but I was really happy with how it turned out for a patch, so.
Other questions for Nick? Okay, thanks, Nick.
All right.
Thank you. We have Tyler at 9:30, but he's not here. Kathy, maybe you got something to report? We'll maybe move you forward if that's possible.
Morning.
Morning.
So I do have the two formal things that are noted in the agenda, but I think I'll start with some other updates first, and then we'll go to the labor agreement after that. The first announcement I have and request is Carl Colm has been hired as a full-time EMT for the Pipestone County EMS. And I am seeking approval of the board to hire him at step C, which is $19.03 per hour, I believe, off the top of my head. And he has about 8 years of experience as a volunteer, so we felt that he should get hired above the minimum of the plan. He also is going to pursue his paramedic license, so we're very thankful for that he is planning to pursue that. So then he's getting hired in as an EMT, and then upon receiving that, he would move up into the paramedic pay range and job description. So then we'll be back to 2 paramedics and 2 EMTs, but that's going to take a couple years at least. So I am seeking approval of hiring Carl at step C, and he actually started his first full-time shift on November 1st, I believe.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we approve the hiring of Carl.
okay, Dan made a motion to approve.
Second.
Chris seconded, okay. Dan and Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Next, I have a resignation in the sheriff's office, and that is Crystal Doherty. She is a full-time jailer dispatcher, and she is resigning November 13th. So I do need approval of her resignation, formal approval.
Okay.
So moved.
Made a motion to approve.
Second.
Les seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. And the sheriff's office has been pretty tight on staffing. They've had people in and out, either on quarantine. So they have hired someone temporarily starting today. His name is Christopher Schultz. We are going through the formal hiring process, but as well, but just to get somebody in there to start jailing. As a backup, they did make an offer for a temporary part-time position to this Christopher Schultz. So I wanted to mention that. Also, we are advertising for a full-time and a part-time position for the jailer dispatcher in the sheriff's office. And I'm requesting approval from the board if we get 2 good part-time candidates to hire 2 part-timers and a full-timer. It's difficult to get part-timers, but if we have 2 viable candidates, we'd like to get them in there. There isn't a lot of cost to us other than the training time, and that's about it. So there's no additional benefits other than wages for our part-time staff up there.
Mr. Chair, move for approval.
Okay, Chris, motion to approve the request.
Dan will second.
Dan seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And then also, when we hired Derek Clear back a couple months ago as a full-time deputy, we did interview several other individuals. We did have another person that were interested for a part-time deputy. They have contacted him to see if he would be interested in coming here as a part-time. He is full-time at a neighboring county. So he basically has to get approval from his sheriff to see if he can work part-time here as well. But just so you know, we may be hiring another part-time deputy as well, if all of his background checks out and he's able to accept that position. So,
That's just for information, right?
yes, at this point, it's just information. Next, I can go to the union contract. So this is the deputies' 2021 through 2023 union agreement. We did meet with them, the union negotiation committee, which is Luke and Les and myself and Steve. Met with them twice, so we were able to come to this agreement in 2 meetings. You should have received 2 copies. One has the changes noted, and the other one is a clean copy of the new labor agreement. The union did vote on this and approved it with their membership, so we would just need the county approval and then it would be in effect. So the first change from prior contracts is on page 12 of the labor agreement. And so the change here is for the callback and court time pay. If a staff member is called back, they get 2 hours callback pay for that, and what they were seeking is to get the option to use that as compensatory time. We felt that was reasonable because it isn't a huge amount of callback. They don't like comp time for the management of the sheriff's office doesn't like comp time because they have to backfill the shift if they're taking extra time off. But for this was something that the management felt was a good kind of balance for the employer and the employer. So they can get up to 20 hours a year as compensatory time for callback pay in the new contract. Page 13, snow days. So this is just kind of making our language more uniform for the sheriff's office because the jailer dispatchers already have this language in their contracts. So this would, if the courthouse was closed because of a snow day or some other emergency, actually it's just snow days, according to this language, the staff would get paid time and a half for hours worked on the snow day. For the vacation leave, which is on page 14, we added another tier of accrual, so 16 hours per month for 23 plus years of service. And that tier is already in the highway and courthouse union contracts. So that is kind of just trying to get everything uniform again with some of these other contracts that we have in the county. Next change is the allowances, and the language that's different is on page 19. So they would be moving from $1,200 a year for uniform allowance to $1,500 per year, paid quarterly by regular paycheck, and that was some language that we needed cleaned up from prior. There was a question if it was a auditor's warrant or a taxable payment, so now it is a taxable payment officially in the union contract, and they would get that on their paycheck quarterly. And then the last piece, which is the back page, page 25, is the pay plans. So they did agree to a 3-year contract, and so the 3 increases there are 3% in 2021, 2.5% in 2022, and 2.5% in 2023. Just in looking at neighboring areas and their cost of living adjustments for 2021, it became kind of apparent that we needed to go higher than what we had budgeted to really keep pace with the market in our area for salaries. So we're looking at the 3% next year, and then a lower percentage the following 2 years, 2.5 and 2.5.
Okay, so you're looking for approval of the new
Correct.
agreement? Okay,
I move for approval.
Russ move to approve. Second, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Any other questions for Kathy at the moment, or wait till 10 o'clock for your
Sure.
ceremony? Okay.
Thank you.
We have, what, Kathy, 3 more unions to negotiate with this year, correct?
Correct, yes.
So this is 1 of 3.
1 of 4.
4, excuse me. And just to fill you in too, just a little bit on the financing part, I did have the department head's budget a 1% salary increase for next year. Every 1% increase is approximately $49,000 to our salary budget. So this will require close to $100,000, but I know that we're going to have some retirements next year as well, which will offset some of those costs as well. We'll be hiring people at lower costs as well. So it might be a little bit of it's going to come out of reserves, but we have the reserves to do it.
Okay.
We don't have a time set with any of those other groups yet.
Not quite. Hopefully this week we'll get something established.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
We'll be back at 10 then for,
Yes.
okay. Then we'll go back to Tyler, our auditor.
Morning.
Morning.
Right. So, pretty much all we need to discuss here today is just really a CARES Act grant update. Steve and I felt like this would be a good idea, especially since we're getting towards the end of how we can spend this money. In your board packet was the attached account activity for what we have actually run through that account since it's been set up. So with that, our remaining fund balance of what we can spend is $250,983.38. As the summary that Steve put together in this Excel format, that does not include approximately $80,000 worth of county expenditures before we got this account set up. So you could subtract that right off the top if you so wish. Also, going through this list, Southwest Health and Human Services for October and November was roughly $40,000 worth of expenditures, $16,000 for ambulance for a pump and ventilator. These, after the Southwest Health and Services, the next 3 are essentially what Les, Dan, and Steven came up with about essentially ways to spend it. So $16,000 for an IV pump and ventilator, $20,206 for NeoGov HR program, and then an initial $25,000 to each one of the school districts in the county, totaling $75,000 total. So after you subtract all of those, that's subtotal expenditures is a little over $230,000 with the remaining balance of $19,859.87, which then we would just transfer the overtime from the county sheriff's budget into the CARES Act grant account to essentially bring that account to 0 for the auditor so that we can prove that we spent all the money. So that's kind of what we came up with, especially since we're still we're not set in stone how much money we have yet, technically. the small towns under 200, which we paid out $20,099 of, they could give us some money back. The other townships that were over 200 and cities that are over 200, if they don't have any money spent by November 15th, they have to give it back to us as well. So we could get more money. With that said, we've had plenty of overtime from the sheriff's office, so I don't think that we're going to have any problem with simply just doing a journal entry transfer from sheriff's office to our CARES Act grant account to bring that account to zero. So if there's any discussion, we can go ahead and discuss. If you guys have any other recommendations, we can do that, or we just need approval for the proposed expenses that we have for the IV pump, NeoGov, and the payments to the schools for these funds.
Kathy had done some checking on the NeoGov, and I don't believe you found anything that was comparable to what we'd be getting with this program. Is that fair to say?
I didn't get any formal quotes.
Okay.
The last 2 weeks, it just wasn't enough time, I guess. Stevens County did sign up for them for 3 years. They're about the same size as us. And they did, purchase the program, we're able to obtain CARES money for it, to pay it and pay it up front. They did get the bill, so.
Tyler, is there any additional money coming back from any of the townships or anything at this point that you know?
Not that I know of. They haven't discussed it with me. Usually at this point, since we're getting so close to the 15th, they would at least talk to me about it. So those small cities and the bigger ones over 200, obviously, if they haven't spent the money, I would assume they spent it since we're so close to the 15th. With that said, I don't know. I don't know if they're tracking it very detailed. To be honest with you, I'm not saying that they aren't, but so I'll probably reach out to them around the 15th to make sure that they didn't actually have any funds, to make sure that they give it to us so that we're in compliance with us, and then we're in compliance with the federal grants. So.
Okay. Anybody care to move forward with an
So move.
Chris made a motion to approve the request. I'll second it. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Dan, I didn't hear you.
I was an aye.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay,
And the only other small thing that I would like to get these approved as, just for formalities, to get all those 3 expenditures approved as an order warrant, so we can get those checks cut this Friday for the ventilator, NeoGov, and the payments to the schools.
you need another motion on that?
I would like a motion for that, just for clarity's sake.
Made a motion,
Second.
Wes second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes.
That's all I have.
Else, Tyler, questions, comments?
Nope.
How's the election thing go? Are you okay with that?
We're on the downward slope, so that's good to know, so we got canvassing.
It's over for you unless they're gonna recount.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna have any recounts on the federal level at our state wasn't close enough for them to want to do a recount for any of the races. We have potential for a couple of school districts in Lake Benton and 29 or RTR. But beyond that, there really isn't going to be any recounts or anything like that. So once we get through the canvassing board on Thursday morning, and then also through the post-election review that following Friday, we'll finally be able to wrap a bow on the 2020 election season. So it's been a nice long time coming, and everybody up in our office can really use a break from that.
Okay.
So,
Good,
yep,
good, thank you.
yep.
Thank you, Tyler.
You're welcome.
Tyler, I've got some stuff for you. I'll save you the trip up there.
No, sure.
And Tyler Dallas's campaign finance reports are right next to the packets.
Okay, we got Tyler out of the way for the day here. Do we want to, no other personnel, Kathy, at this point?
No, but I actually don't have any staff known for the recognition program.
Okay, okay.
I'm gonna have the department heads present their gifts and things, so. I don't know, Steve, what you think about doing it earlier, or?
We can wait a little bit. We got committee reports to do
Okay,
yet
that's
too. We've
fine.
got to get those in yet too, so.
So
we can
you
wait a
don't
little
have
bit
any
on
other
that.
personnel items to talk about, just the recognition thing, okay? So if you want to, we can go to committee reports, I suppose, for the month.
We can also take care of the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership
Okay.
Agreement too.
Well, let's
That's
do that then.
That's about a 1-minute item.
Take care of that in a minute, Steve.
Yeah. So What this is, again, for everybody, it comes from Southwest Regional Development. They operate a program where they do loans to certain individuals for housing, and our agreement has ended, so they also file the reports with the state through deed on our behalf. So the recommendation is to approve the agreement for professional services with the SRDC for 2 years. So that would run it through all of 21 and into 22. And if that would be okay, I'd like a motion to approve this agreement for their professional services for the loan program and also the reporting program to deed.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Okay, Chris moves the,
Dan will second.
Dan second, okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
And then all we have left is plant tour and Kathy's recognition program and committee reports. If you want to go into the committee reports, we can certainly do that.
That would be fine.
Okay, Chris, you want to start out there?
Tuesday, October 6th, I had Towards Zero Deaths in Lincoln, Pipestone County Safe Road Coalition. We attended over a conference call. We talked about the buckle up stencils being available, which obviously we used here at the courthouse. And Lauren sent an email to say about how helpful Nick, Steve, and Wayne were with that process here. And again, reiterated it during the meeting. Just very thankful for you guys doing that. Crashes have increased this year over last year. Lincoln Pipestone County data presented was 87 DWIs, 46 crashes, and 1 death. On Wednesday, the 12th, attended Southwestern Mental Health via Zoom. They're now going through Paycom for their payroll services to be on that bi-weekly pay schedule. They do have some budget concerns this coming year since revenues have been down. There was mention that the consortium wants to partner for a residential treatment facility in Worthington. I think Southwest Mental Health kind of not very interested in doing that right now just because of a lot of concerns they have right now, among other things. They thought it would really directly compete with the Unity House, and that's kind of a conflict of interest there. They're thinking would take down those numbers, and then didn't see much benefit in doing that. So they're hesitant to move forward with it at this time. Talked about how there is an adolescent mental health group started here in Pipestone. So far, it's going really well. And that's starting some of those in the other counties or in other cities as well too. Thursday the 13th, attended Friends of the Casey Jones Trail meeting on Zoom. We extended the contract with SRDC to finish going through the year. SRDC is drafting a letter of intent for the final stretch from the trail to Woodstock and send it to the appropriate public boards. Weber and Schumacher have both been supportive of it. Kent, I didn't get his last name, from the director of State Parks and Trails, attended the meeting, and he was very helpful. He's actually been with the council since the trail started, and he himself is very supportive of it, worked with it a lot early on in his career. Dan, did you have any more you wanted to add to that meeting that I'm missing, or is that pretty much it?
He covered that real well. We do have a new Trailhead sign that was put together for us up in Shakopee, I believe, or Savage, and plan on going up there this week to pick that up. So,
And that was for the Lake Wilson Trail, or?
Lake Wilson Trailhead, yeah.
Thank you.
And then maybe had some discussion about getting some help from the Trails group to do some of that maintenance mowing over there on that trailhead as well too. But that, thus far, we haven't got that put together because of the ownership of it.
Mm-hmm. That Ken from the Parks and Trails is a very helpful resource when it comes to information with buybacks and certain things like that. So it was really good to have him in there at that meeting. And I don't know, Dan, did you watch that on Zoom? That guy had a pretty interesting camera setup too. It was that black room, and he looked all red. It was kind of creepy looking, actually. It's very fitting for Halloween.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Okay, I'll continuing on Monday the 19th. We all attended the PCMC Board Education session in Navarra at the Prairie Center boardroom, and update about numbers and other things. Wednesday the 21st, met with the safety committee here with Safe Assure. Everything went well. Pretty much everything they've addressed last year has been or everything that they brought up last year has been addressed. So shout out to Steve and Wayne for proactively handling those and addressing those issues, as well as the department heads too for addressing those. I think we have a lot to be proud of. Slips and falls were down. Had a lot of good numbers to show at that meeting. So it was a good meeting. Monday the 26th, counties providing technology, CPT, attended via Zoom. Right away we had Ryan Engelstad from Baker Tilly to do the audit. There's quite a few things that came up with that, but that's pretty normal, he said, for an entity that's going from private to public. See, the end balance, even after paying dividends this year, is still going to be 1.17 million. With this being the first audit, a lot of those things were routine, but there were some deficiencies in the lacks of internal controls, lack of segregation of those duties and accounting functions, such as no duties or assignments in place for the organization flow chart. So those things are pretty minimal, but can be addressed. So, there's no new personnel information for the first time since I've been on that board. They have all positions filled, hired, and people actually want to go work there now, coming out of Morris. So it's been a very good thing. So, you could sense the energy from the Mike and Gwen and everybody that's attending that things are going real good up there for them. So, Tuesday, 27th, had the Pipestone County PCMC board meetings, and then that night. I attended a Zoom conference call with Southwestern Mental Health regarding the Sunrise Village. And that completes my reports for October.
Okay, Luke?
On 16th, I toured Sunrise Village with Les and Steve, Wayne, and some others. And then later on that day, Prime Health had an executive meeting regarding the Renville Hospital situation. On the 19th, we are all at the Prairie Center in Sioux Falls for the hospital education. On the 20th, Les and I had the union negotiations with the deputies, which we approved their contract earlier. On the 22nd, had an MHA training. On the 27th, the hospital board meeting. 28th, Highway 23 Coalition met. They said we should expect 15% cuts for the next biennium, pretty much across the board, trying to deal with the budget deficit situation. And on the 24th, they're having a meeting to kind of review the safety study at that Highway 23 and 7 intersection in Clara City. So that's moving forward. A couple of COVID updates on the 30th and the 6th. On the 4th, one watershed, one plan for Missouri River. Unfortunately, no quorum was present, but the state is applying for a regional conservation partnership program grant for the southwest Minnesota area that's covered in that watershed, and hoping to be able to get more projects done. We have to use our current funding from the state as match for this federal grant they're seeking, but that'll allow them to get more stuff done. And then they kind of reviewed a request. They want to use a portion of the funds to develop an app for like, so say you could be meeting with farmers and they can basically, through GPS determine, what is available to be done on your property, and then what programs are available to fund whatever needs to be done, and it'll all be through an app or something, so that people could just do it on their own, or else you could have somebody go help them. So it's, I guess, something we're potentially going to explore, but we had to set a meeting where there's enough people present to take action on it. Of course, on the 5th, we had our AMC District 8 meeting that we all participated in. And yesterday, the AMC Policy Committee met to review proposed platform submissions from the 5 different policy committees. And next Monday, of course, when we have our regular policy committees, they'll be voted on by the various committees themselves. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Les, you want to go ahead?
Okay, on the first, we had Prime West, not a lot to report on that one. It was pretty much a routine meeting, wasn't it, Dan?
Yes, I agree. Very, very routine. They have had some instances of quarantine in the office because of some exposure, but I don't believe they've had any of their workers actually come with virus. Is that what you understood from that meeting as well? But there have been some that have been out on quarantine.
Right, right. And then they give an update on the COVID tests that they have paid for. I can't remember the exact number. I wrote down what it was the other day. I left that slip lay at home, but the numbers are really quite high of the tests.
Well, and also the fatalities that we've had, I believe through the Prime West group of insured, I believe we've had like an 8% fatality rate, which the average is somewhere in the area of 4. So that I think it really was out of line. Our actual total numbers didn't seem too bad, but the fatalities were up.
Yeah. Then on the 12th, we had plant ops, and we went over that at the hospital board meeting. On the 14th, we had Southwest Mental Health. Chris kind of highlighted on that. On the 16th, met in Jasper at Sunrise and went through the facilities with Luke and several other individuals. On the 20th, union negotiations, and we just ratified that contract today. On the 21st, I had Southwest Mental Health, and that got to become an interesting meeting. Employees wanted to buy chairs to work from at home, to set in at home. And these chairs were right at $500 a piece, right, Dan?
That's correct, yep. And their proposal was because they felt it was COVID related that we could use CARES Act money for this. And yeah, quite a discussion on that.
And it was like 50-some chairs, and that got shot down real big.
I believe the vote was 8-0.
But that's just one way people want to use CARES Act money. And I thought, what are we going to do with 50 chairs or 50-some chairs at $500 a piece when this is over with? Heck, that's a better chair than what I have in my living room.
Les, do you want to touch on the cubicle extensions as well, too, a little bit?
What's that, Dan?
Do you want to touch on the cubicle extensions a little bit for the top, going up to the ceiling?
Yeah. I think it was Redwood County, was it? Their cubicles were too short. They just have the petitions. They had to put extensions on them. I can't remember the exact cost, but it was just outrageous what the cost was to extend the cubicles. What was it, 18 inches?
18 inches, because if they're seated at their desk, then it complies with the distance requirements. But if they're standing up, they'd have to put their mask on. So they thought that we should put extensions on there. They don't want just a simple, inexpensive fix. They want us to go back to the original manufactured cubicles and buy the factory OEM extensions to put on top. And then also there were some of them that they couldn't get those for, so they wanted all new cubicles for those. So I think, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that dollar amount in excess of $20,000?
That was about 240,000, I think, total for the system.
240.
Yeah.
And our share of that is listed on our CARES sheet. Ours will be about $30,000 approximately of that cost, based on our percentage that we have on it. So that's why I put on the CARES Act sheet 99,1751 for October and 30,000 for November.
Okay, anything else on that, Dan? That was about it, wasn't it?
I think that pretty well covered Southwest Health and Human Services, yep.
Okay, and then on the 28th, we had executive radio board, and that's where we kind of go through everything and set the agenda for the next meeting. We didn't have a lot to go over. Usually it's an hour-long meeting. We're done in about 20 minutes. But since that, things have really piled up, so we're going to have another executive meeting before the regular board meeting to go through everything, so more to come on that. And then on the 30th, again, we're back in Jasper at Sunrise with Wayne and Steve, and who else was it?
Dave?
I was there.
Dave.
Dan was there, Dave Smith was there.
Oh, yes, and Dan.
Yep.
That's pretty much the end of my report.
Okay, I didn't have a lot this month. On the 12th, we had plant operations. Les was there. He discussed that a little bit. We talked a lot about the street and the upcoming senior programs at the medical center. That was a Zoom meeting. The 19th, we went to Everett, Sioux Falls for an educational board session. That was, I think everybody was there except Les. I think he had another appointment that day, but that went pretty well, really.
I was at a Vera.
He was at Vera, but at a different meeting. And then the 27th, we had medical center board meeting on Zoom. That's all I had for the month, other than normal meetings. So. Dan, you have want to go with your report?
All righty. You bet. Well, Les mentioned on the 1st, we had Prime West. Then on the 8th, I had the Pipestone Area Coalition with the STARS group at the school. They talked about, they bought face masks with the logo on it to hand out to all the students. It's really kind of a challenge for the school, but they're making do. It's going out there. They still have some funds that they need to utilize, some state funds to utilize, and they're looking at possibly using some of that grant money then for equipment trailers, like what the band has got their equipment trailers. So they've got some other groups there as well too, like the robotics group. They need something to haul their stuff over to competitions as well too. There was another group too that was going to use those. I can't remember. It was the softball group or something like that. They're looking at maybe utilizing some of that. So one of the things they're working on. Then also on the 9th, I had my Southwest 18 mental consortium. They talked about, of course, instability of funding, not really knowing where they're going to be out with their hands, and also shortfalls in staffing. And then, as we all know, with how this COVID situation has drawn out, that there's a lot of fatigue, not only with the clients that they work with and the uncertainty, also with their staff. On the 13th, Chris mentioned Casey Jones. Then also on the 14th and 16th, both, SRDC, working in conjunction with Minnesota Rural Electric Board, hosted a transmission summit. The scope of this was, and we had the Commissioner of Public Utilities was our moderator for this as well too, and we had a pretty good turn. I think we had close to 50 people that had dialed in on those. And the whole concept was attention to need more transmission lines in southwest Minnesota because of the amount of wind resources that we have, but we're unable to deliver them to the market. So looking at what we can do to improve that, they talked about the history. In fact, I was asked to speak a little bit about the history of wind going back with my exposure back 15 years ago, kind of where we've come today, and how it's a little bit ironic that Pipestone County was really the leading county in wind development. You know, we thought of the turbines that were put up by Holland, by NSP, before their XL Energy, back, I think that was 17 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and how we've saturated our ability to get the power out to the end user, so we really have a need for that. Then moving on, like I said, that was 2 days. That was the 14th and the 16th both. Then also on the 16th, we mentioned building and grounds. We had a building and grounds meeting. On the 19th, I had my SMOC, Southwest Minnesota Opportunity Council out of Worthington. That was also the same day that we had our Avera board education in Sioux Falls in the morning and the afternoon. This was in the evening. With SMOC, we talked about the challenges, again, with COVID, with the Head Start program. We do have some of our teachers that are working directly with students there at the Head Start building. And we do have some exposure there. We have a teacher that was exposed but not infected herself, but still because of that, they were concerned about transmission of that. So they've gone through the protocol, and and isolated that one classroom that she worked with. They had class broke down into smaller units. So far, none of the students have contracted it. It's going well so far, but it is a challenge. We talked then about on the 21st, Southwest Health and Human Services. I think we covered that real well. And then again on the 30th, we had that building and grounds meeting. So that completes my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I'm gonna wait a few minutes, Kathy, for your ceremony. Want to take a 5-minute break? Okay. Steve, you got us back on. Okay, Kathy Feste is here to recognize employees for years of service.
Yes, as you know, we typically do this on an annual basis where we recognize our staff that has completed 5 year of service, 5 year of service milestones. And we were actually going to recognize both the 19 and 20 employees in April, and because that's County Government Employee Recognition Month, actually, that's a month. And but as you know, COVID halted our plans with that. So we're not able to recognize these employees in person, but just for the record, I'd like to recognize all of these employees, and I will give their service gifts to the department heads to thank the employees individually and hand out their service awards to them. So I'm just going to list off all the employees, and then I would ask that the commissioners please pass the resolution when I'm done here. So Lisa Braun has been an appraiser with us for 5 years. Derek Clare is a deputy sheriff, and he's been with us for 5 years. Trevor Erickson is our sign and environmental technician in the highway department and soil and water departments, and he's been with us for 5 years. Tom Haig is an investigator, and he's been with us for 5 years. Eric Hawk is the senior engineering technician. He's been with us for 5 years. Gretchen LeBrun is our deputy recorder, and she's been with us for 5 years. Chris McChesney is a senior appraiser, and she's been with us for 5 years. Dwayne Mearsma is a highway maintenance worker, and he's been with us for 5 years. Dustin Seiler is a deputy sheriff, and he's been with us for 5 years. Keith Bremen is a sheriff, and he's been sheriff for 5 years. I didn't accumulate his service, but he's had longer service than that with Pipestone County. Paul Matthews is a patrol sergeant, and he's been with us for 10 years. Steve Werner is a jailer dispatcher, and he's been with us for 10 years. Melanie Verhey is a jailer dispatcher, and she's been with us for 15 years. Sandy Erickson is a deputy auditor too, and she's been with us for 20 years. Steve Ewing, county administrator, he's been with us for 20 years, and again, I don't have his cumulative service in here either, so he's actually has a longer years of service, but his current tenure is 20 years.
Add 12.
Okay, 32. Judy Ford is our probation administrative support specialist, and she's been with us for 20 years. Dan Mosier is a highway maintenance worker, and he's been with us for 20 years. Dar Slinger, highway maintenance worker, been with us for 20 years. Janet Bauman, deputy auditor 1 for 25 years. Dave Koyman, highway maintenance worker for 30 years. Leslie Leak has been our highway accountant for 30 years. Jim Lustfield is the highway maintenance worker and intermittent foreman, and he's been with us for 30 years. Marianne DeGroat is our county recorder, and she's been with us for 35 years. And finally, Scott Bardusin, the assistant county attorney, has been with us for 40 years. Their service and knowledge and dedication to the county is invaluable, and we thank them. So.
Okay, we need a motion to recognize / approve the recognition.
Yes, the resolution 59-33-20.
Okay.
So move.
Second.
Luke and Chris made a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
So, anything else to come before the board today, other than the plant tour at JBS?
Mr. Chairman, just an item we should go over. We will go into recess for the tour out at JBS, and then we'll adjourn out there. Dan is going to join us out there. I'd also like, Commissioner Johnson brought up, we're lacking a picture of the 19 and 20 commissioners up there, so I'd like to recommend that we do a group photo on November 24th. That would be okay with commissioners? And get a good picture of that. Kathy, take a good picture of everybody against the wall, and I think we've got a bunch of frames somewhere on this yet, somewhere in the building, and we'll get a new picture up there of everybody.
Okay.
That would be all right? We'll do that during the meeting on the 24th.
Okay. Otherwise, if there's no other business, we will resume the meeting at JBS meets at 10:45.
Okay, so we'll go into recess.
And later in the day, we will
Adjourn.
adjourn the meeting after the
Tour.
tour. I would assume.
Steve, Steve, just for a reminder for us, that we dress appropriate, do you send us an email or just put it on the agenda? Just to remind us when we get a little closer to that photo.
Yes. Yep, I will.
And if Dallas,
So if it's possible, if you could come that day, that would be great.
I would
No,
think
I'll make that work.
Good, thank you.
Dallas would be welcome to join on the tour as well,
Sure, if you'd like to.
if he wishes to. I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it might be interesting.
And they're having lunch there.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, they're having lunch. They're
Oh, really?
bringing in lunch from the Stone House for us.
So it was